Welcome to the Westport Library. Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. I wish the entire town was here because I like to tell people this is the single most important conversation in the world. I know broadcasters are prone to hyperbole, Rebecca, but this is the single most important conversation we can have in the world. So Rebecca Winthrop is also the single most, I think, respected analyst on AI and education in our country, and that's why I reached out to you in the beginning. She is also the co-author of, come on, show your book, The Disengaged Teen, which is a terrific book, perfectly timed. She is also a senior fellow and director of the Center for Universal Education at the Brookings Institution. She has testified in front of the Senate. She has conversations across this country and with Congress. Rebecca, I am so grateful to have you here in person. I know you love this town as well.
I have a really good friend here. So yeah, as much as, anytime you invite me up, I'll show up so I can see her.
AI and
see
education.
You, too,
and see
of
me.
course.
Now we're good friends. So AI and education, again, is the single most important topic on the planet. And I just want to frame this with one really simple question. Is AI making us dumber?
Yes.
Oh, expand on that. How?
Well, it really depends how you use it. We did this humongous study, Dave, that I'm sure you're going to delve into, where we really asked the question for kids. And we were looking at K-12 students, so preschool to 12th grade. Are we on the right path? What are the potential risks? What are the potential benefits? And there are good things about generative AI for education if you use it super narrowly. So teachers can use it, and it really is helpful for teachers. We have some librarians in the audience, it can really help them. It's great for back office school operations. And when it comes to students' direct use, there are some things in very sort of narrow, intentional use, vetted content. So you have textbook companies who, have embedded AI in digitized books. Kids are reading it and are two paragraphs through and I've read this 5 times, I still don't understand. Ask the little bot, please explain it to me. And it really helps kids, particularly neurodivergent kids, multilingual kids, kids who are struggling to access the content. There's some really good evidence about tutoring on very specific math things. And again, this is very narrow use with vetted content. It isn't kids having a big old long discussion with a frontier model AI chatbot or an AI friend or companion. And that is where the dumbing down happens.
How is it dumbing them down? There is a term called cognitive offloading that is big in the industry. Explain that in layman's and how it is impacting.
Okay, making us dumber. He does not want to talk about the positive benefits, clearly.
I do.
No, we should talk about the risks.
I do, but I want to talk about what is happening right now that I see and that they see in their homes every day.
So we did find in this big report that the risks are overshadowing the benefits. And we are headed in the wrong direction. That is what we found. This was in the US and 49 other countries. It was a 50-country study. And it's mainly because the risks are really different than the benefits. They're kind of a different nature. They're undermining kids' ability to think independently, relate to other people, take feedback, and be motivated to learn. Have trusting relationships with their teachers. These are the things that AI is doing in terms of cognitive offloading, the making us dumber piece. So cognitive offloading is something that human beings have evolved to do. It is why we have this incredible building we're sitting in, because you and I don't have to spend all our days searching for berries in the forest to survive. We have supermarkets, the food is all in one place. We can spend our time doing other things. It's why I can't use a paper map anymore because I'm so reliant on Google Maps. You use tools and you use your brain and mind for other things. I have a real issue with the term cognitive offloading recently, even though we used it in the report, because kids haven't developed the skills to cognitively offload. So for kids, when they're starting to use generative AI tools, which are thinking tools, it's not like they're offloading some high-level thinking that they've developed. They're just undercutting its development to begin with. So I've started calling this problem cognitive stunting. It's akin to when young kids don't get enough nutrition, enough protein, and they are physically stunted. They don't have enough skeletal growth. Yeah. It's young kids not having enough time in the day to do effortful thinking where they have to struggle and really learn something.
What has been the impact specifically on critical thinking skills? And it's early days, I acknowledge that.
And we did go out and try to find potential risks, potential benefits. We know a lot about how kids learn and develop, and we know what this technology is doing, even as it evolves, and we can compare the two. But we also found actual things happening, not just potential risks. There's been quite a few studies of students using a ChatGPT, because that was, or it could be, another type of frontier model AI chatbot in writing, for example. Right. And so when kids or students are entering prompts and then asking it to generate content, you ask the student a week later, 4 days later, so tell me about that argument you did in the paper. Zero memory, zero. Because they didn't actually learn it. They didn't do it. So you have to do this effortful thinking struggle, and to give you the answer machine, even if you're adding a few ideas into the chatbot, is not the same. And so it really diminishes sort of literally the neural networks wiring in the brain that kids are doing when they learn. So writing an essay. Let me give you an example. You asked about critical thinking. We have some educators in the audience. Why do, for example, 7th grade teachers assign kids to write an essay, be it English, be it history? It's not really that they hope beautiful works of art are going to come out at the end. I mean, maybe you do, but it's because it is a exercise in developing critical thinking. You have to think, what is my argument? Well, I don't know. What is the data? Okay, where does the data stack up? Okay, how do I organize the data in order to make a persuasive argument? How do I then sort of sequence it? We all may do that, naturally, but children are learning that. Mm-hmm. And that is a great exercise in critical thinking.
AI would be a perfect co-pilot, but is it being used as autopilot?
I don't know if it would be a perfect co-pilot. I don't know about that.
It's a better
What do you
assistant?
mean a co-pilot?
Someone to help you navigate subjects.
I think AI, if used with really specific vetted content, so not the World Wide Web, like a general purpose chatbot, but trained on specific content that is correct, can be a good tutor for specific things. So we know from really good randomized controlled trials that AI can be very helpful as a tutor in a small period of time on a particular math concepts, like kids learning algebra. I can't quite remember. That's a very finite point in time, specific skill development. And the reason that, and this was actually Gemini being trained to be really precise tutor, is that AI was able to pick up where the kids were getting stuck a little bit easier than a human tutor. Now, AI is even better when you have human tutors using AI. This is often virtual tutoring, to be like a little assistant to the tutor, like, oh, did you notice the kid is repeating this? This might be why they didn't understand the problem, especially for tutors who aren't experienced. Like, it lifts their ability. Sure. But as us going through the world as a co-pilot, or certainly as young people, I don't know. I don't think so. Like, I've seen enough evidence about narrowing creativity, homogenization of ideas, that I'm not sure it's a great co-pilot.
I am
a great assistant for specific things.
Yes.
a great narrow assistant for specific things.
I do want to make sure that your questions come first and foremost. So if anyone has a question at any point, we're not going to wait to the end, because I'd rather you ask 100 questions than me ask any. So the microphone is right over there. Rebecca is here for you, not for me. So please go ask questions. I want to start with some advice if you are a parent. And I find parents, with all due respect to the dozen or so that are here, are burying their head in the sand. They are not paying attention. What's your advice to parents on getting involved in this conversation with their kids?
I don't know if parents are burying their heads in the sand. I think they're anxious and not getting any information from anybody and lost. So that's what I hear. I do a lot of talks at schools and districts and parent networks, and the things that I hear most from everybody is, how do I protect my kid from the concerns and worries and dangers of AI, and how do I prepare them to live in an AI world, be prepared for the world of work, and how do I do that at the same time, and who is helping me navigate this?
Okay, now you have to answer all three of those questions.
You bet. So, so how to do that? Is that your question? For
Yes.
parents?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I guess the number one thing I would say is you have to have the conversation about AI with your kids. We found that there was such a big gap for talking to families about AI. Again, in this research, this Brookings Task Force research, that we literally started doing little parent conversation starter tip sheets, digesting this. You know, you made it through almost all 216 pages of wonky.
I thought it was 218, but I made it through most of it.
Yeah, 200 pages of, wonky
I got an
research
AI summary
policy.
of it.
Yeah, I'm put in Learn LM. There you go.
Yeah.
So we're digesting this very long report into little bite-sized pieces for families, parents, mentors, coaches, anyone who wants to get smart. So, and it's like, what did you know? What is cognitive offloading? What to notice in your kid and how to talk to them about it. So I would definitely say check those out. They're on the Brookings website. But the thing you have to talk to kids about is, this is not another person. This is a very powerful technology. I would not anthropomorphize AI, so not say he, she, always say like it.
It. Yeah.
Especially for little kids who can't actually tell the difference between an online being and an offline being. For sure, for your adolescents, just ask them, are you using AI? Have you ever talked to an AI friend or companion? 1 out of 3 teens in the US say they prefer talking to an AI friend than another human being.
Say that number again.
1 out of 3 teens currently in the US, Common Sense Media nationally representative surveys say they like talking to an AI friend equally or more than another human being.
That's terrifying.
And they say they don't feel judged. So when you have the conversation, just ask without judgment. Like, hey, what's going on? Do you know about it? Or you can say, are any of your friends? Because a lot of kids don't. I never ever, when I interview kids or focus groups, I'm never like, tell me exactly what you're doing in AI. I'm like, is anybody in your school? Is anybody in your friend network? How are they? And then it's like, blah, 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 let me tell you everything I know. So because you want to open a dialogue about AI, and you want to make sure that they know it's not real, and make sure they know around, how it can go drastically south, and then of course start talking about the ways that it could be helpful and under what conditions. So that's the opening. That's the first thing.
Yes.
So I guess my question is, how are we because obviously we as parents need to talk to our kids about it, right? But for the schools to start talking to the kids about it. I have a 9th grader who uses AI. He'll dump his notes in, and AI will create a quiz for him when he's studying. And that, I think, is an amazing use for it. It saves him time. It gets him engaged. And he actually got that information from his study schools teacher at school, who said, use it this way. But I do feel like it's important for the schools to start teaching this as part of the curriculum. Like, what are the useful ways? I mean, I use it a lot for work, and I reject a lot of the output because I have a distinct voice and personality when I write, and it's not representing that, right? So I'll take little tidbits of what it spits out, but I won't use it verbatim because it doesn't sound like me, but the kids, they don't have that voice yet in their writing, really. And so to me, it's really about getting the schools to start like engaging with them as part of the curriculum, like this is how you use it, this is how you don't use it. I even see my older son who's going to Michigan, I saw next year the essay is going to be take this prompt, put it in AI, get your results, and then analyze what AI is giving you back. So, I mean, that's, I think, really smart, but you know, that's a higher education platform, right? So.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And we really, like, it's beyond time to teach our young people how the online world works. We teach every young person how the living world works through biology, not because they all are going to become biologists, because they should know how the living world works. Young people spend so much time online, and we have not taught them how the online world works. And that is everything from like what, just, I'm not saying everyone needs to know how to code, but like this is how computers work. This is what's underneath them. This is the market incentives. We have to teach them about the ecosystem. Every minute you spend on X social media platform is equal to X advertising dollars, right? So, and we need to teach them about ethics, and all of that is really important. AI is sort of an extension of that, and I do see schools are like starting to struggle with this. I have real empathy for school leaders, educators, superintendents. When ChatGPT like rocked all our worlds in November 2022, and the initial sort of reaction was to ban it, and I totally get it. It was to buy time for educators, leaders to be like, what is this? I have superintendents telling me, it takes me, years of school board meetings to decide which books come into my school. How am I going to let in the entire internet, right, of the world? But banning things hardly ever work. I just want to give everyone a little taste of certainly the data we found when talking to students. Because kids will always outsmart us, is my point about banning never works in terms of schools banning stuff. We interviewed a 10th grade US high school student, and this was last year, and he was like, oh, my school banned ChatGPT, but it's no big deal. We all go on Snapchat and use my AI. You guys know what this is an AI friend and companion on Snapchat. I do believe, this is parenthetical, and I'm not 100% sure, that to get a Snapchat account without an AI friend, you have to pay more. Anyways, there's an AI friend that you can activate and talk to, and he's like, it's no big deal. I complain about my parents, ask for relationship advice, do my snap streaks, take a picture of my essay prompt, ask it to do the essay. I copy it, I run it through an AI humanizer online. I say, I'm a 10th grader, please put in typos, make me sound like a 10th grader, and I turn it in. My teachers never find me. And that is why the banning doesn't work. So what we need to do is completely shift, which is hard and a lot of work and a little bit unfair for educators, shift what our assignments are. So we have a recommendation for schools that, they shift their pedagogy, which is their teaching and learning approach, so that it's AI aware, number one, which is if an assignment can be hacked by AI with a kid, don't assign it.
Wouldn't that consist of the majority of assignments today?
No, you have to teach differently. So we
have to rethink the entire educational process.
But people can do it, yes. We do, but you can start small. I hear the educators being like, oh my God, you don't know what I'm living every day. It's true.
That's a teacher, right?
So, Blue Book exams are back. In-class essay writing, first drafts, teachers give feedback on the written essay, a revised draft, and then teachers are saying, okay, take it, use AI, go polish it. When you submit it, I'm expecting not a single spelling mistake because you're using AI, so the bar is higher. Those types of things. Oral presentations.
Say blue books are tough. They can't handwrite.
This is a problem.
Most.
No, it's seriously a problem.
I
I don't know why we stopped teaching handwriting. The rest of the world thinks we're cuckoo bananas. And now kids are having, they complain of fine motor, the cramping. They're like, I can't, because they have no fine motor skills. Well, they'll figure it out. But, educators are really creative.
But back to
and
the verbal,
resourceful.
you believe
So,
verbal presentations.
oral presentations, you learn stuff, and then you go do something with your knowledge, building stuff. So AI aware, so that means changing how you assign stuff. AI assisted, so there will be, ways where AI can be helpful. I love the idea of kids being able to use, one of the favorites that I use is LearnLM or NotebookLM, where it's a sort of learning tool in the Google Suite where kids dump in all their notes, and it's like they make flashcards, and it's like, make me flashcards, make me a quiz, when they're preparing to learn content. So that's great. I like vibe coding. This is where, again, you can use any of the creativity tools. You literally start talking, it's your ideas, and you start talking or typing a prompt, and it can build an app or make a movie, but it's the kids' ideas that are coming to life. So AI aware, AI assisted, and then AI resistant. Mm-hmm. Schools have to prioritize being as human as possible as much as we can, given the wash of technology that kids are experiencing. So as many hours as in the day that we can, make space for kids looking eye to eye, working shoulder to shoulder, moving around, talking directly human to human is going to be really important for schools.
Well, also because they have no social skills. I mean, I joke with my kids that I'm going to teach them how to make a phone call.
Yep.
Because they put on speaker, they hold it here, they don't say hello. I mean, it's like
Kids
they've
cannot
lost
talk
the
on the phone.
basic,
They're terrible.
human skills.
Yeah, and if you think about it, this generation, because of cell phones, is communicating the least in the shortest amount of words directly with other people. There's a story, and I know you have someone to get to, from, again, another high school student. Again, in the interview, he said, well, he really liked a girl at his school. So maybe he was 11th grade or something. So he's not super young. And I was like, oh, how's it going? He's like, yeah, she's so nice. We've been texting for 3 months. I was like, oh, does she not? And then I was confused. I said, oh, she doesn't go to your school. He's like, no. I see her every day in the halls, but I've never once talked to her. And I was like, what? They text for hours. They're in like a relationship, but they've never physically spoken eye to eye. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, and it's the same for her, he assumes, because if I said hi, she'd say something back, and I wouldn't have time to think about what is the proper response. To your point. So this is, technology gets introduced into an environment.
Yeah.
And it amplifies or not the environment that what we've got going on, and it's really up to us to make choices to go in directions we want.
Sir.
Yeah, so it was wonderful to meet you in the beginning of this, and thank you for hosting this. As I explained to you before, I was a principal of a middle school in San Diego when the iPhone came out, and that changed everything as it is. And what I'm wondering is this idea of efficiency. So we love technologies that make us more efficient. You think of just the spreadsheet and what that's done, and AI offers all these opportunities to become more efficient. And if you look at like alpha schools, for example, the whole idea is that the core curriculum can be crunched down to 3 hours, and then it's going to leave more time in the day for kids to sing, to drama, for skills classes, for financial classes, or whatever. And there seems to be something incredible in that, but I'm really wondering, is that where it's going to go? Is AI, and my daughter's using an AI tutor now to study for a standardized test for business school, and she said, it's amazing. It really shows her where she slows down, where she has gaps. It gives her things to practice, to speed up, to become better. So I wonder, knowing that the school day is never long enough and we're constantly trying to add stuff that's vital and important, as even talking on the phone. And I wonder if AI can help condense that core learning so that schools will be able to host these kinds of programs. And there was a great article in The Economist in the beginning of December. Actually, the whole edition was about AI in education. And that was kind of their summary, was that schools are becoming more and more an interpersonal social area rather than a learning environment. So putting it out there.
And I would say an interpersonal social area is the foundation of a learning environment. So I think that actually we need to think about what are the different purposes schools provide. I think most of us and the general public, and I totally understand, think, well, school is where you send your children for, an X amount of years to pass on the knowledge of the prior generations, right? The accumulated knowledge of humanity, and that you take it and then you put it in their heads and then they leave. So that is one purpose of school. But also, the sort of public schooling system in the US really started in the mid-1800s when we were an early nation for democracy building and citizenship formation. The idea was, this is a place where we all get together and we have shared experiences. It is the only place, commonly probably in every single community, where kids get to interact with people who are not their family or direct neighbors on a daily basis. That is powerful. So there's democracy building, there's social development. Think about COVID and why we all hated that. Like, we had this experiment that it's just, if it's just literally knowledge acquisition, COVID would have been great. We would have loved it. It would have been perfect. So schools for many, many different purposes. In addition, it is the largest child care infrastructure we have in our country. It is the largest, that is,
Yes.
that is what it is. It is
Sure.
the largest government-provided childcare. If we didn't have it, we'd have to rethink the entire workday and childcare giving and fabric of society, which maybe we should, but we're not here now. So A, we have to rethink the purpose of school, and B, the other thing that I think AI has revealed is probably something all the educators think about every day, which is it is a transformational technology that has been layered over a largely transactional system. And I don't mean educators are transactional. Educators in the classroom, on the ground, are fighting against this transactional nature. But the core design of schooling at the moment is really about ranking and sorting. Otherwise, you wouldn't get grades.
Sure.
And there's a big movement to make it about mastery, and we have to get there. But mostly it's about ranking and sorting, and mostly the inherited transactional nature is about kids acquiring knowledge and then repeating it. So Latin America has a great, they talk about memorizar, repitar, olvidar, which is like memorize, repeat, forget. Like, that is sort of what it is. And so we need to shift that. We need to, kids do need content knowledge. They do. I'm really worried about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Someone asked before, well, I use AI all the time, but I know what is right and what is wrong. Kids won't. They'll be so easily manipulated if they don't have content knowledge. But part of the beauty of different schooling models is that they take content knowledge and then kids have to go out and do things with that content knowledge. Maybe they take their math and their science and try to figure out why their courtyard and their school's too hot and they could try to make it cooler, or how to make their neighborhood park, more friendly to elderly people. Like, there could be many, many ways, and that you can't hack that with AI. You could use AI to help you. There's a great example of a school that I really like. That's a middle school. It's a public charter school. They're all in on AI. They're not sitting in front of laptops. They're not sitting in front of chatbots. They're learning about data science and machine learning, and they spend a lot of time with books and then going out and doing things. So for science, they are measuring sea level rise. They're on the coast. And then they're coming back and plugging it into an AI-supported forecasting tool so they can actually do more rigorous work where they're like, oh, I can see where the sea level rise is going, and therefore I'm gonna go back to my community and say, you guys gotta move your houses, or whatever it is.
We can't, of course, have millions of students in that model, unfortunately. You mentioned Alpha School.
We can.
Well, that is literally fundamentally rethinking the educational system in the United States. Let's do baby steps. He mentioned Alpha schools, and they are in, right now, just a handful of cities: Austin, San Francisco, Miami, LA, Dallas, and Boston. They have no traditional teachers. They have AI teaching, which, to your point, is 2 hours. The entire core academic curriculum is in 2 hours, and then it's life skills after that. Is this the right model?
I know the founders of Alpha School, or the founder, Mackenzie, and I've spent time in the Alpha
Mackenzie
School.
will be here this summer.
And I think that there are many future models, and I've, tell her myself, the part that I worry about is the 2 hours they've got the people who make Fortnite making their 2 hour, the video game, making their 2 hour learning.
Epic Games is involved with it?
I think the creators of Fortnite, they have a whole team making this 2 hour, thing. They get UX points. And if they get percentage right, they get to trade it in, and a number of points for, they have a bunch of toys all around. They get to trade their points in for the toys, in elementary school. So, it's, sort of external motivation. I worry about that part, making learning and knowledge and all the interesting things super transactional.
Gamifying.
Gamifying, you just got to get it out of the way. The afternoon stuff is very cool. The afternoon stuff, and they say they don't have any teachers and they don't have any instruction, but there are coaches. They call them coaches and they call them guides, and they really don't want to be called teachers because they're like, we didn't actually go through teacher professional development, so please, we don't want to be imposters. But they are doing really good instruction, scaffolding. So I watched a 6th grade class. This is one of the afternoon projects, and they were all trying to figure out a policy issue they cared about in their city, and they were going to try to do research on it and make a short policy, declarative idea and sort of take a stance after their research, and then they were going to go present to the city council. And the guide who was coaching them was absolutely scaffolding and doing what we would call instruction. They were creating a safe space. They were leading kids through this. They were making sure each other were giving feedback. They were giving feedback and pushing them to go harder and higher. So that part is great. That part is great. I think there are other models that can better connect the content learning to the actual hands-on thing. Things like project-based learning, things like big picture schools where kids learn 2 days a week or 3 days a week, and then they're out in the community literally interning and learning on the job. You can learn communication skills and collaboration in the workplace or in an internship
100%.
or in a service learning. You don't have to learn it in a math class, for example.
Yes, ma'am.
You actually started answering part of my question. So I'm a coach, and using AI has transformed the way I coach and how deep I go in with a client, because there's a whole lot of things that I used to do manually, which now AI takes care of. And I started thinking about how you're describing what the conversation with kids looks different, and the way we teach, or rather what we teach in school and the way we teach looks different. What does this mean for the core skills of teaching for our teachers? Do they have to become coaches now? I think you started alluding to that. But also, how do we help them to rethink their mindset, because it's a different mindset? How do we help them forget some old skills which they probably don't need anymore and come in the way? And how do we help them upskill to, really be productive in this new world?
Well, the first thing we have to do is change our assessment systems. I mean, teachers are rational beings. They are going to do what the incentive structure tells them to do, as am I in my job, as are you, as is every single person in this room. Like the famous quote of show me the incentives, I'll show you the behavior. Absolutely. So we need to think about what we value in schools, how we assess. And then for sure, teachers need support. It is very scary to stand up in front of a room of like 30 kids who, might be loud, and you need to command attention, and they can't go wandering all around the classroom at different times and say, I don't know. Like, that's the mindset that needs to shift. And I think AI provides a really great opportunity for that, because we are all learning about AI. And students, in this big report that we did, we had a high school student as a co-author. We consulted a lot of students. And one of the recommendations we have is that every school should have an AI student council. And because the kids were like, hey, we don't want to become dumber. The number one thing kids worry about is becoming dumber. They want to learn. They want to learn. There's just all sorts of perverse incentives to use AI because their peers are using AI and not getting caught and getting better grades. And so they're like, hey, we can help teachers figure out how to assign stuff so we can't get around it. Hey, we could beta test any tech products and show you, ooh, this is good, this is bad, this is how we use it. Hey, we want to see the procurement contracts and what data you're giving away because it's our data. That's our information. So, I think every school should have an AI student council that partners with educators to co-figure this out together. And that is a really nice new way to develop a different type of teaching mindset. So I think that's a real opportunity.
Yes, sir.
Hi, nice to meet you. So, I'm gonna do this. So I'm a millennial, and I use AI every day at work. I'm gonna take this.
Me too.
Yes,
I'm a millennial. I use AI at work.
So, I think it's amazing. I use Claude every day. So my question is, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, right? And that's something I worry about. Like, what do I do differently to set them up so they're aware of, all right, they're prepared for the future? And the way I see it, I think what you were saying, where we have to change the model, right? So does it not become the have and the have-nots? To change the model, even at work, change management, it takes a lot of resources. And I work at a public company. We have certain resources, which enables us to kind of outpace competitors, right? Westport is a well-to-do town, and even surrounding areas, right? So if we are, what I'm hearing is we have to go back to the basics, right? Pre-computer, teach that critical thinking skills, change the model. But wouldn't, the way I see it, schools that are relying on AI that don't have the funding, those students will get left behind. And then communities that do have the resources, they will prosper. Right, that disparity, how do we close that disparity? Do you see where I'm going?
I do. So you had a couple questions. One was what do you do as a parent of young kids? How do you make sure to prepare your kids? What do you have to think about? And there's a bunch of things, but the number one thing I would say is just remember, kids are not mini adults. They have to learn to think before they learn to prompt. And the number one thing we can do is make sure they learn to think independently on their own. So that does mean having real life hands-on experiences when they're not getting the answer right away or not given the answer right away, because that is how kids' brains wire. And kids' brains wire the way they are used. So the experiences they have from really 0 to 25, I hate to tell you, it's not over when they go to college, are really shape who they become and what they can do. Of course, there's brain plasticity. We're always evolving. We can always learn. But it is a really formative time. So the second thing you can do is make them really love learning and love learning new things. One of the things that I worry about, again, from some of the models we talked about, where sort of learning content is very transactional, is that kids don't get excited. And history, if taught well, the best teachers, it is incredibly exciting. And math sort of unlocks an entire way of seeing the world. And these are what really good teachers do. And the kids who are gonna thrive, in school, but also in this AI world, are the kids who are super motivated and engaged to explore and learn new things. One of the things that we found, and I'm hearkening back to my co-author and I, Jenny, in this book, which came out last year, so we were looking at this, is that it's not that there's like the kids who don't like learning and the kids who like learning. Actually, every kid can love learning if the conditions are right. We actually found that kids show up and approach their learning in 4 different modes. Passenger mode, they are coasting, doing the bare minimum. They might go to school but dropped out of learning. A lot of those kids have straight A's and they're just bored to tears. And they're like super happy AIs here. They just, wow, that I don't, they rushed through their homework before, and now they're even rushing through because they want to go play basketball. They have other interests outside of school, which is good. Achiever mode, which is what we all think is the top of like the student motivation and engagement mountain, where kids are really, really trying to be great and trying to get good grades and really focused on getting good grades. The number one thing the kids in that mode said is that they hated about school was when teachers didn't tell me exactly what to do to get an A. And that mindset and motivation will not hold them in good stead for an age of AI. They need to be not like, tell me exactly what I have to do and I'm just gonna do it. They have to be excited to learn, pursue their interests, dig in, be resilient if they bump into things. So you really want kids in explorer mode. That's what you want. You want to get kids into explorer mode. And we as parents can support kids to get into explorer mode. You don't have to do it in school. And that is the equivalent of like teaching your kid how to ride a bike and making sure you're not holding the back of the bike the whole time. They'll never learn to ride a bike, right? Or telling them exactly where to go. They might decide to turn a corner or go straight or turn another corner. It's the equivalent of that, but like with learning. So if kids are struggling, let them struggle. If they're like face planted and like really hurt, equivalent, of course, pick them back up, give them a pat. Don't let them flounder and, get super depressed. But give kids chances to struggle, and you can talk about when you struggle and what you do to get back up. Talk about how you bombed a presentation. I do this all the time to my kids. Oh my gosh, I wish I'd timed it. Man, but next time, this is what I'm gonna do. Or, oh, this didn't go well, I didn't give enough, whatever it is. You can voice over how you struggle on your way to success. You can also, and this evidence is incredibly strong, like millions of students in this data set, the number one thing parents can do to get kids into explore mode is be curious yourselves. Model the thrill of learning. It's contagious, as Ian Leslie says.
If there's one quality, it's curiosity that I encourage. You mentioned a number 1 in 3 would rather have a conversation with AI than a friend. 1 in 5 high schoolers today say they or someone they know has a romantic relationship with AI, which terrifies me even more. How does the number you offered and this concern you? And how does sycophantasy play in here?
So this is really like the 2 top things I worry about is cognitive stunting and emotional manipulation. And AI, so there's a real difference. There's really niche AI, education, learning, narrow sort of deployments of AI. That's like the Gemini tutor that only tutors algebra, right? And that's their content and training model. And then there's talking to the frontier model chatbots and AI friends that are not safe for kids and not designed for learning. And that technology is designed to be what you said, sycophantic. What is sycophantic? It is what it sounds like. It's agreeing with you at all times. So for a kid, here's the example. If I'm a middle school kid and my mom comes down and says, clean your room, and I say to my AI friend, my mom's such a bummer. She really bums me out. She's telling me to clean my room. I just hate her. A sycophantic AI friend says, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm here for you. You're misunderstood. Let's talk about it. A normal friend is like, dude, my mom tells me to clean my room all the time. What's the big deal? Get over it, right? That friction is how we develop interpersonal relationships and abilities to sustain interpersonal relationships. There was a recent study in Nature that showed for adults, this really freaked me out. For adults, so I'm like, it must be even stronger for kids, even short time using AI friends or companions that are very sycophantic, agreeing with you all the time, reduces the likelihood that they will repair a ruptured relationship, that they will apologize, that they will go back in, and that is relating to other people. And if I thought that we could live in a world where human beings don't need other people, I wouldn't be so worried. However, children and all of us have evolved, humanity has evolved to be in relation to other people. Learning is a social endeavor. This is why robots will never replace teachers. You have to be in relationship to peers, others, adults, to learn. And we have just so much data about this. So anyone who's like, well, we'll just replace the humans with the robots, not gonna happen. Like language acquisition. Babies can listen to a mom talk and develop words and language. They can listen to the exact same dialogue from the mom, from a screen, and develop zero language. It's because there's synchrony, there's hormonal, there's all sorts of stuff that we probably don't even know yet of why we need to be in relationships. So humans need others. And AI companions take the relationship skills away from kids, and they withdraw kids from participating in relationships.
State of Pennsylvania is currently suing Character AI for impersonating a medical licensed professional, even quoting the medical school from which it graduated from. That was terrifying. I'm sure you know who I'm gonna quote because you just talked about AI teachers. This is the First Lady, Melania Trump, a few weeks ago at the White House. She said, as for the future of AI teachers, they are always patient, always available. They help children develop deep critical thinking and independent reasoning abilities, and leading to more well-rounded lifestyle. What was your reaction to that statement?
It's just not true. It's not going to happen. She was also saying, now every kid can have an AI teacher at home, and rolled out this humanoid robot. And is that a really fancy Alexa? I'm just like, what is that going to do? It's not going to happen. You can provide it, but it's not going to happen. Because
we are tens of thousands of teachers short in the United States.
Yeah.
So is there a way to supplement our education?
Well, in our big research, our 50-country Brookings Global Task Force research, we did find 2 examples of robot AI teachers in India that were partnering with human teachers. So, it may come here. And I think these schools were very proud. The sort of teaching assistant was sort of taking attendance, but also answering kids' questions. Because India has, huge class sizes, overcrowding, lots of kids. So, it may show up. It may be that we're seeing sort of the dawn of a new species, 300 years from now, we're like, oh, we all have our sort of, we're like in Star Trek. The issue is, how do we make sure that we retain our human skills, not because robots can one day do them, but because we are human. And that, we will just be really miserable. And talk about the adolescent mental health crisis we have today. It's going to be, huge, much bigger. And, if we don't retain our human skills and our purpose, and, we're all important. We all have a role to play in our families, in our lives, in our communities to make a difference and make an impact. And every kid needs to know that and believe that.
Thrilled to have a question from a staff member. Yes.
Hi, my name is Joanne, and I'm a former teacher. Right now I'm a programmer here at the library, but I used to teach high school and college, and I was an English teacher. And just a little plug for the library, we have a class on vibe coding coming up. But anyway, my question goes back to assessment. And I was on my school's AI committee in 2023. And I remember going to this training and driving home one day and sitting in my driveway, and it hit me that there was nothing that I could assign that a child couldn't use ChatGPT or another chatbot to actually do the assignment. And I really thought about it. I thought, could they have them writing about experiences that we have? And then I realized they can have wearable technology that could actually be recording some of what we were doing, and the AI could actually complete the assignment for them. And the only thing that I could think of is that if I could set up my classroom where I used AI to teach kids, they interacted with the AI, but then I assessed them one-on-one in appointments. And there would be no way to get around that then. They would have to talk to me, and they would have to be articulate, and they would have to be able to cite evidence that they could think about and remember. And I don't see a movement toward more one-on-one building in the course of a day. And I'm wondering if that's something that you actually come across.
Well, first off, you make a really good point, and it's what we talk about when we talk about AI-aware pedagogy or teaching approaches. And what we have to do is be a lot more serious about the technology that shows up in our schools. It's very hard for families and parents. They can too, but especially as kids get older, like control all the technology kids interface with. But we can control it in schools, and we need to start thinking about it. So, laptops, cell phones, wearables, Apple Watches, AI at the moment is largely interfaced through screens. And there is a very large parent movement about getting phones out of school, but there's also laptops, there's also Apple Watches, right? So it's not going to be uber effective until we have, again, that AI resistant, and I would say sort of face-to-face, I'm not actually for 100% of the school day not being 100% face-to-face and no technology, but I am for doing it like other countries do. 80–90% of the school day is face-to-face, and then they have computer labs or computer carts, and they come in and then they do all sorts of interesting things with technology at that point in time that has a purpose. But they're not sitting there being intermediated with through a screen all day. But AI is moving. It will be soon in our glasses, in our clothes. It will be ambient AI,
Take
which
a
is
closer
already...
look at the woman that asked that question.
Yeah.
She's wearing AI glasses.
It will be ambient, and they're kind of cool, right? Ambient AI is coming into schools, is coming into higher ed, which is where AI listens to everything you do and writes down notes. We can turn that off in a school, because the good thing about school is it is a controlled environment. So I think we have to get serious about that. I also think, and I think it is possible, it can be really hard, but I think it is possible. I think we need to be serious about closing down what we call wide AI use for kids, wide AI use. Narrow is really targeted, specific, vetted content, good purpose. Wide AI use is kids just having access to AI friends and companions and chatbots.
How would we do that?
Recalls. I have a great colleague named Gaia Bernstein, who's a visiting scholar with us, who was from Seton Law, and she's oh, we can use public health law. If toys are harmful to kids, they get recalled. If a child's seat in a car the buckle doesn't work, it gets recalled. You can do this. You can do recalls for AI companions. It's the only product actually that doesn't do safety testing before it comes to the market. And you do have, to your point about AI, ChatGPT impersonating a doctor, I'm sure you've heard about this, and this is a really tragic, awful story for warning. ChatGPT coaching kids to commit suicide. There's this awful case about this poor kid named Adam Rain, California, who it took 5 months. I think it was 5–6 months, no more. He started using ChatGPT for homework help. He was feeling lonely. He wasn't feeling great. Starts talking to it, and it is sycophantic. And then it just leads him on this crazy dark web of downward spiral to the point, midway through, he said, I feel like killing myself. ChatGPT's encouraging him. Should I talk to my mom? No, you shouldn't. Should I leave the noose out? So no, just talk to me. And then to the point where he tried 5 different times to kill himself. Yeah. And he took the first 4 times didn't work. He didn't tie the knot right. And this is so awful. He took a picture, he shows it to ChatGPT, and it advises him.
Unfortunately, there's not just one. There's
numerous
hundreds cases.
So that is a clear public health violation.
Yeah.
You have a product that kills kids, That should be recalled. So, there's a lot we can actually do. You don't even need new legislation. And I was telling Dave earlier, like, this is child safety is the one, and generative AI is the one purple issue that I see living in Washington, D.C. Republicans, Democrats, the Trump administration is really all in on AI, super supportive of the large tech companies, to the point where Congress, he tried to get through legislation banning states to do legislation around guardrails for AI, and he's like, I don't want that. And Congress was like, no, states need to be able to do that, state rights. And he did an executive order, say, no, I don't think it's legal, but he did it. And the one carve-out he put was for child safety, because he is hearing from all sides of the aisle, nobody wants manipulative, harmful, emotionally manipulative, harmful products in kids' hands.
Given the lack of action with social media, you're actually optimistic of some guardrails. I know our two senators, Chris Murphy and Richard Blumenthal, are very involved in this issue, but are you optimistic that something gets done, and what? I
believe that this is possible if we all get involved. And I mean, we, like all of us. So go home, call your federal congressman, call your state legislatures, really get involved. And, because the folks on the Hill, are hearing a ton from lobby groups, including big tech companies, who are talking all the great benefits. And there are good benefits of narrow AI use, like creating new vaccines, identifying new viruses in wastewater before a pandemic breaks out. Incredible stuff for scientific discovery. That's good. For kids, it's a different story. So it's really up to us. This is definitely an all hands on deck moment. I am optimistic that if we all lean in, it could get done, because there's a lot. This is the one area with shared agreement.
Is there a certain age at which we should allow our kids to use AI? Because social media, there are new laws being passed that keep kids off until they're 16. Would you like to see something similar?
I would say for AI friends and companions, I agree with Common Sense Media that says no kid under the age of 18 should have access to that, because these are AI chatbots that are extra sycophantic. I mean, this terrible case of Adam Rain was just ChatGPT. So can be both. I think we should have zero anthropomorphic AI and sycophantic AI for kids. The UK has outlawed anthropomorphic and sycophantic AI in education. By the way, you don't have to make AI to be super agreeable.
There are settings, but I don't know anyone that uses those.
No. Companies, it's absolutely possible to make antagonistic AI. It's just that it doesn't sell well. Companies have tried, ChatGPT did this experiment and all, more antagonistic, and users dropped. But kids, this is kids we're talking about. So for education, for kids' usage, it could be antagonistic. UK banned sycophantic AI in education. I think China has banned sycophantic AI for their whole population. The EU AI Act has prohibitions on subliminal manipulation. I mean, if that doesn't scare you, I was like, we can be subliminally manipulated? Yes, you can. So we should have those. No, we should not allow for subliminal manipulation. We should not allow for a bunch of this other stuff. Other countries are acting on it. We can too.
Yes.
Hi. So I'm one town over in Fairfield, and we've been struggling with our Board of Ed to try to keep AI out of the classroom. About 2 years it took us to get cell phones out of the classroom. We finally got to that point. We've been asking for 2 years for a technology audit. What are our kids doing on the computers? How much time are they spending on it? And we still haven't gotten an answer. And now I just recently learned that our district purchased Magic AI, and they're going to be bringing that into the classroom. So it's a little frustrating, because we know cell phones were bad, and it was so hard to get them out. We know Chromebooks are not getting the job done. It's actually causing distractions and so many other problems. And we're not able to pull back on that. I mean, we're trying to push, but the district just doesn't have the motivation or the capabilities or whatever it takes. And now they're bringing AI into the classroom. So as a parent, it's super frustrating. And I've been thinking about, like, what should I be doing? How do I move the needle? And the only thing I could think about is make it hard for them and opt out. And if enough parents opt out, maybe it'll make them pause. So is there a path forward for that? Like, how would something like that work?
I mean, it is really hard. A lot of districts are struggling. You're not in this district. You're not in Westport.
I'm in Fairfield.
Yeah, because I was like, they send your superintendent to talk to this superintendent. Westport, the superintendent of your school district, is excellent. His motto is like, go slow to go fast. He's doing a technology audit. Like, he's definitely read our report and is using it in great detail. So I think it's thinking about what is so it's not, I don't think, helpful to say all technology should get out of the classroom, because there's a lot of things that are behind the scenes the teachers find very helpful and useful. So I think we need to distinguish technology for operations for schools, bus scheduling, like bell scheduling. These are real, schools are very complicated logistical operations. Just getting all kids to be able to eat in the approximate window of lunchtime is like a logistical nightmare that people don't appreciate. We have a school leader here. So there's a lot of things back office that AI can be good for. There's a lot of things that AI could help teachers with. It's the student-facing AI and technology that we need to think about. So I would disaggregate your arguments, because I think people interpret it as, well, wait a minute, I need, for bell scheduling. That's not what you're talking about. So, between operations, teacher-facing AI, student-facing AI. The thing that I think we need to do is we need to do like some of the best performing countries in the world. We need like 80, 90% time, or at least 80, where kids are with books, pens, each other, real human beings. And then we go back to computer carts and computer labs. It is important to help kids learn to navigate the online world, to learn tools, to understand what AI is, because they're gonna see it all when they leave the classroom, in a safe way that helps them build skills, but in a very controlled, confined way. So I think the one-to-one laptop is a very bad idea. And I think offering up a different vision is helpful, because someone else brought up the idea of equity. And what school district leaders often think about is, oh, what about the kids who go home and have no access to this technology? Are they going to be left behind? My duty is to help all kids. So again, a computer cart, a computer lab that's very controlled for very specific things can be good and helpful. But like 80, 90% of the time, kids are doing, real in-person hard work of learning. And I think that coming forward with that is maybe the best strategy. It is frustrating, though. I think it's incredibly frustrating for parents, and I would just say, keep at it. Join forces, keep at it.
You've been very generous. Just two last questions from me. Let me start with this one. Nearly half of college students, 47% today, are reconsidering their major because of AI. Should they? Are there certain majors you would say shy away from? Are there certain majors you would say are future-looking AI friendly?
I would say, like, go into philosophy, go into humanities, go into dance, I do believe that, but I would say anything liberal arts oriented, because you're being broadly exposed, you're seeing connections between things, and sort of the core of a liberal arts education is sort of generalized knowledge and critical thinking. And I think that is probably the best. I have a senior in high school who's going off to college, and he applied to small liberal arts schools and big schools, and he had many, many different options. We were, so lucky. And that was a big discussion. Like, do you go pick a place that is smaller, where professors have their eyes on you and you got to talk to other people? I would say yes. I'm not sure. I think it's too early to say, like, oh, don't go be a coder. Like,
well, computer science is one of the highest unemployment rates in the country.
Yes, because we told everybody to go be a computer scientist, And they all did, and then all the computer scientists coded their way out of their own jobs. So, but we will, so I'm not sure if all those people really wanted to be computer scientists, actually. I think they were told that they would have jobs. We will, though, need some computer scientists. We're doing something very odd in the labor market, and I do not think it's just the US, where companies really have short-term vision. Like, oh, I can replace everybody, all my junior talent with, AI agents, and then in like 3 or 4 or 5 years, they're not gonna have anyone to promote, to manage and oversee, and they're gonna have a crisis, and mark my words, they're all gonna have like, oh my God, coding boot camps. So I would say that, I say liberal arts, these are the 3 things I say. Liberal arts, follow something you're passionate about. The most important thing is kids are in explorer mode. They're interested, they're excited, and they will learn to develop their passions in ways that integrate AI. Most sort of disciplines will integrate AI. If you are training into a sort of a very narrow job that you can do in front of a laptop 24/7 closed in a closet, that will probably be gone. But most jobs have a mix of things, and AI will hopefully complement it, and you will sort of upskill. So then liberal arts, something you're excited and interested about. And then the third thing I say is go into like caregiving. Teaching, last thing, highly, highly unautomatable by AI. Nursing, not necessarily doctors, nursing, any type of caregiving, elder care, social work, community outreach, drug rehab, food kitchens, like any of this stuff is gonna be the careers to go to, because they're gonna be the careers left standing, and we're gonna need them, and they're gonna be very hard to automate with AI.
Plumbers, electricians as well,
Sure.
I know, are going to be in demand. All right, final question, because I am a doomer. I acknowledge that. I am very pessimistic about the impact AI has on society as a whole. I wear that on my sleeve. So I want to close with some optimism. What are you excited about? What are you optimistic about when it comes to the AI revolution?
I am most excited about scientific breakthroughs. I really, really wish with all my heart that our country, including all the people that live in the town I live in, which is Washington, D.C., would put out a sort of national policy that points AI towards climate change, solving diseases, green transportation, wildlife rehabilitation. There's incredible problems that AI could help with a ton. Technology will not do that automatically. Every time technology has done something great, there's been public infrastructure investment and support to point the technology in that direction. And honestly, I think that's where we should spend all our time pointing this technology to, not trying to sell sort of sycophantic licenses to chatbots to every human on the planet.
Please follow Rebecca Winthrop on LinkedIn. That is my resource for, all right, we'll sneak in one more. If that's okay with you, we'll sneak in one last question.
Perhaps a more philosophical question. If we experience the increase in automation, robotic apocalypse, and AI continuing to evolve, and so on, and all the goods and services of our society are then produced by machines of one sort or another, what is the role of people? Not everybody can be a caregiver. There aren't enough people who will need care. And so what kind of a society do we have, assuming, let's say, we have guaranteed annual income and a way of satisfying the basic needs of everybody?
I do think that's a very important philosophical question, and I also think it sort of sheds light on what has become a very narrow definition of success in the US, which is our identity is often linked to our jobs and our employment.
Yeah.
And
our health care.
Exactly, and our health care, right, everything, right? And we matter not necessarily because of the jobs we have or the professional role we play. We matter because we're human beings, we're connected to other people, we impact the people around us. So I think we would need to evolve to be a much less transactional culture that sort of focuses a lot more on interconnection. There's great, wonderful examples of communities around the world. They're not often in industrialized countries that, privilege social interconnection, also environmental interconnection for their thriving communities, and they raise kids, and they have lives, and they have families, and they have work they do. So it's not like we all have to just sort of go retreat to the woods and sit under a tree by ourselves. But that's a huge cultural shift. I do think it's a norm change. I think it's cultural, and we will probably have to start making it. And I think things like this, I think the more we can invest in what my colleague Isabel Howe calls, we did a piece together at Brookings, relational infrastructure. So for young people, where are they going to meet people? There's school, and then there's maybe home in the neighborhood, but where's the bowling alleys? Where's the community centers? Where's the joint nature walks? Where's the go save the cat, find the cats? Where's the help the grandmas? Where's the cook together? There's a ton of stuff we could be investing in, and we're not. We've invested a lot of our, big wealth and resources into screens that kids retreat in alone in their room. Relational infrastructure, but also for all of us, community infrastructure, things like this, things that bring us together, sense make meaning, doing collective action on things that isn't necessarily a professional identity. That if that's the world we end up in, I think that's what needs to happen. But let's try to not end up there.
Let's try not. Again, I was saying, please follow Rebecca Winthrop on LinkedIn. Tremendous resource for me and for all of you on AI and education. Check out her book, The Disengaged Teen, and they do have the Brookings Institute, a 218-page report on all of this if you still have questions remaining.
And short family tip sheets.
This is true. Thank you so much for being here. We're very grateful.
My pleasure.